Welcome to Jimmy Madison's Whiskey Training Program. Section 2 will cover the different types of whiskey and categorical recommendations. Let's begin. Bourbon. Bourbon is the most popular style of whiskey produced in the United States. It is strongly associated with the American South. Most bourbon is made in Kentucky. Certain bourbons that meet specific guidelines are labeled as straight bourbons and will be identified on the bottle this way. To be considered straight bourbon, the spirit must meet very strict guidelines. It must be produced in the United States. It has to be made of a grain mixture that is at least 51% corn and aged in new charred oak barrels for 2 years. It must also be distilled to no more than 160 proof, entered into the barrel to age at no more than 125 proof, and bottled at 80 proof. Bourbon recommendation: Woodford Reserve 12 year. Woodford Reserve 12 year is crafted in small batches. The artisanal process allows for crafting using all 5 sources of bourbon flavor, giving it its distinct taste and crisp, clean finish. Tennessee. This whiskey is made exactly like bourbon, with the addition of one step near the end of the process. Before being aged, the spirit goes through a step called the Lincoln County process. This entails passing the whiskey through a bed of sugar maple charcoal. The taste that this produces sets Tennessee apart from bourbon because it gives the whiskey a sweeter, mellower, and slightly sooty taste. Tennessee recommendation: Gentleman Jack. Gentleman Jack is charcoal mellowed before going into the barrel, and again after reaching maturity, giving it ultimate smoothness. Gentleman Jack is full-bodied, with fruit and apple spices, and its finish is silky, warm, and pleasant. Canadian. Canadian whiskey is light-bodied, versatile, and very mixable. It is aged for 4 to 6 years. Almost all Canadian whiskey is a blend of various grain whiskeys of different ages. Canadian recommendation: Crown Royal Black. Crown Royal Black is rich and flavorful, and it's a blend of Canadian whiskey. It has all the signature smoothness of traditional Crown Royal, but is matured in charred oak barrels and blended at a higher proof for a richer texture and bold finish. Rye. To be considered rye whiskey, the mash bill must contain 51% rye mash. The whiskey must be aged in new charred oak barrels for 2 years. These whiskeys have a spicier, fruity flavor and are less sweet than bourbons. Rye recommendation: Templeton Rye. Templeton Rye is Iowa's most notorious whiskey, and it is smooth and spicy with a clean finish. Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey must be distilled and aged on the island of Ireland at less than 94.8% alcohol. It must be aged for at least 3 years in wooden casks. If the spirits are a blend of 2 or more distillates, it is labeled as blended Irish whiskey. Caramel coloring may be added to the product. Irish recommendation: Tullamore Dew. Tullamore Dew has exceptional character and is made with an exceptional process. It is a whiskey of greater complexity, balance, and unrivaled smoothness. Scotch. Scotch must be made in Scotland from a mash distilled to no more than 94.8% alcohol, matured in oak casks for at least 3 years, and bottled at no less than 80 proof. Nothing may be added to it but water and caramel coloring. Scotch recommendation: Glenmorangie La Santa. It's elegant but full-bodied. It spends 10 years maturing in American white oak ex-bourbon casks, before being extra matured for a further 2 years in sherry casks from Spain. It has a soft texture and deep sweet aroma. Virginia whiskeys are served at Jimmy Madison's, and Bauman Brothers is a good one to recommend. This whiskey is distilled 3 times using the finest corn, rye, and malted barley. It is aged for many years in charred oak barrels, so it will please even the most discerning palate. The nose is warm like the Virginia summer, and its flavor has hints of vanilla and oak with a smooth finish. Further resources: Now that you've reached the end of Section 2 of the Whiskey Training Program, there are some additional resources you can use to study the material before you take the quiz. Replay the video as needed to go over the information, and refer to the infographic that accompanies this presentation. Thank you for watching Section 2 of Jimmy Madison's Whiskey Training Program.